Hey everybody, welcome to Upstairs to the Right Music. On today's show, we're going to take a look at my personal guitar collection, and we're going to go down the rabbit hole of vintage gear just a little bit. Coming up. Hey everybody, this is Mike McWilliams. Welcome to Upstairs to the Right Music. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. And before I begin, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you like the contents. It really helps me out, and not only for me but for your other favorite YouTubers. Take the time to do the same. YouTube is changing its algorithm, and you know, it's actually more beneficial actually to the big corporation than it is to the small guys. So take that extra minute, make sure if you were subscribed you still are, and also hit the like button. I'm sure everybody appreciates it. I know I do. Anyway, I thought today we would take a look at my own personal guitar collection. Now, you've seen me literally go around the world and take a look at a lot of pretty sweet guitars, but I thought maybe I would take time to take a look at my personal collection of guitars, and also to take a look at the vintage market and have a little discussion about guitar prices. So it's going to be mixed up a little bit today. We're going to have a little fun here. I hope you enjoy it. Now everybody has their number one guitar. I have to say for me that my number one guitar actually is this made in Japan Fender Telecaster. This is actually, by the serial number, is from 1984. The story behind this guitar is a pretty funny one. I'm going on 2 decades with this one almost. I bought it in a second-hand pawn shop in Japan for $100. This was kind of pre-internet. Well, there was the internet, but there wasn't anything like it is now. And so a lot of the shop owners, they didn't know what they had. They didn't know how to accurately price things. So for Ichiman yen, or about $100 today, I was able to pick up this guitar. I haven't changed anything about it. The pickups, everything is stock. I did change the pick guard on it only because I thought it looked cooler in black. But other than that, this is pretty much well stock. This guitar has been heard literally by hundreds of thousands of people. I use it on every TV commercial that I produce.
ไม่ว่ายังไงผิวก็ยังดูสวยแม้ต้องเจอเรื่องหนักๆแทบทุกวันงานรุมเรา24 ชั่วโมงนอนดึกไหนจะเมคอัพหนาหนักไม่
I've used it on 6 or 7 records that I've produced. I've played it. You can see it in my opening title crawl. You can see me playing it in my live shows. It's just a pure pleasure. You know, when I was a kid, I like Prince. I thought that he was the most awesome, I still do, guitar player out there, or was out there unfortunately. And he played what I thought was a Telecaster. So, you know, when you're in your teens, you're like, oh, I want a guitar like his. Now, of course, we know now that it was not a Telecaster. It was actually a Wildcat, which was a Telecaster copy that was, I think at the time, it was actually made in Japan. It was just ironic, because if I had known that, I would probably looked in the used shops to try to find one, because nowadays they are extremely rare, extremely hard to find, but when they came out, they were only a couple $100, and apparently Prince bought his from the trunk of a guy's car before a show. So anyway, I started playing Telecaster. I really wasn't into Strats. I still am not. I believe that a Telecaster is a workman's guitar. You can get any kind of tone that you want to get out of this thing, from rock to jazz to whatever you got to come up with. Funk, absolutely, really good for funk. My favorite guitar, really fast neck, and just a gorgeous sounding instrument all around. So yeah, this is my number one. Let's see what else. Oh, this is a recent addition within the last few years, is Danelectro. I really love these guitars because they have a very unique sound to them that none of these have. I always wanted one of these, and when they started reissuing the new old stock model, which is this is one of, I immediately went out and got one. I have actually used this in recordings on my newest album that'll be coming out here shortly. I use this guitar, and just a great guitar. Nothing fancy, you know. This guitar, by the way, you know, I'll even talk about prices a little bit. This guitar, I think I got for about 400 bucks. And believe me, it will not go up in value. But if you got the, if you pretty much well got what you wanted to get in terms of your own personal guitar collection, and you're looking for something unique, I could not more highly recommend getting yourself a Danelectro, either new like these, or even the ones from the 50s, the vintage models. They're very big money. You can get them for the $800, $900,000 range. They're not expensive guitars, and you can still find them. So yeah, my Danelectro. Yeah, we talk about this one. So this is also a guitar that I picked up in Japan. It is a Yamaha. I think this one is around 94-ish. Again, not an expensive guitar. I think I got, this is another pawn shop guitar that I picked up in Japan that I got for, oh my gosh, I think about 100 bucks, yeah. Just really beautiful guitar. Just rings forever. Beautiful, beautiful guitar. And these again, you can find these on Reverb and eBay for a couple of $100 bucks. Not an expensive guitar, but this one also I have used in some recordings for TV commercials, and I'm not sorry about it. I bought it after I had the action set on it and got it to where I want it to be. I don't have a need for another acoustic guitar. This covers all the bases. And it's a beautiful guitar. I mean, it's just a gorgeous guitar. Yamahas aren't really given the kind of DAC that I think that they should be getting on their guitars. In any case, a great one. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, this one real quick. My 335 copy. This was made by a guy named Tony Smith. He is a private luthier. These guitars didn't catch on. They came out in the mid-90s or so. It's just basically yet another 335 copy. I put in a pair of, I took out the original pickups and put in a pair of Seymour Duncans. I believe that these are Midnight Specials. Yes, so these are the Midnight Special Seymour Duncans. It's kind of a hot rod now. I used this guitar for a live show once, and I think you can find that on YouTube and on my channel page. Good sounding guitar. I use it now as my practice guitar. I don't use this for any kind of recordings. I've actually, other than live shows, I've never used this for anything other than that. And again, super cheap guitar, but beautiful tone. I really like it, and probably never let it go. For me, sitting on the couch, just, you know, running scales and whatnot, it's a great practice guitar. So that's its primary purpose. All right, moving along here. So, as I said, the Telecaster was my main guitar for a long time. And I never really contemplated buying another electric guitar. I didn't buy them because I was happy with the Telecaster. It gigged well, it recorded well, it was what I needed. But I began to want to have a different sound. When you're recording, really, sometimes you want to have the tone of the guitar to fit within the mix of a track. And there's some things that I got it to work, but I thought to myself, you know what, maybe it's time to pick up a guitar that has humbuckers in it. And so I went out and I bought this Les Paul model Epiphone. This is the Les Paul standard copy that Epiphone comes out with. This was my first Les Paul guitar, and it's the total intention of this guitar was for me to buy it and to use it in recordings when I wanted that Les Paul sound. I swapped the pickups in it. These are also Seymour Duncans. I can't remember what they are, but these are Seymour. I'm starting to think I have as a matter of fact, I know I have a thing for Seymour Duncan pickups. I do love them. That's my pickup of choice. I swapped out the hardware. I put in new pots in here. Put in a bone nut. Yeah, so a lot of internal changes on this guitar. I bought it and then I never used it. It's a true story. This guitar has not been played hardly at all. And there's a reason why I'll tell you in a minute. As you know, even with the couple $100 I put into it, these Epiphones are going for, what, $600? They're not expensive guitars at all. Again, just showing you that you can get quality guitars out there without, going over $1,000. The idea of spending that kind of money on a guitar, to me, was just something that I could not see myself doing. So in any case, this guitar actually, this Thanksgiving is going to Los Angeles with me when I go there to visit and do a guitar safari, so stay tuned for that. Where I'm going to break my $1,000 rule for sure. Well, actually I already have with this one, but we'll get to that. I'm going to give this guitar to my brother. So David, if you're taking a look at this video, absolutely, this is yours. I want him to have it. My brother's not a guitar player, but I want him to have it. He is a musician and a pretty good one at that. So I thought maybe in his old age that he might want to take up playing guitar. So absolutely, this is not going to go wasted. This is going to go to a very good home with my brother. Next up is the reason why I never used the Epiphone. This is my first, God honest, Gibson Les Paul. And it's a 2018 model. It is the Les Paul Classic from 2018. That year was the only year that came out with P90s in it. Talking to a couple of friends and looking around, everybody recommended that you have a guitar that has P90s in it. They have a very unique sound all to their own. A very beautiful guitar clean. Very good clean tones out of this guitar. And the story behind this guitar is actually kind of interesting. It was hanging on the rack at one of the guitar shops. I took another guitar in to get the truss rod adjusted on it. And I was just kind of combing around, down in the B1 level of the Peninsula Hotel, there's just a gang of guitar shops. So as I was wasting time waiting for them to finish that work, I saw this hanging on the wall. This is a brand new, from the factory, 2018 Les Paul. And I noticed, and I don't know if you can see it, it may not show up, but when they sprayed this at the factory, they didn't do it very well. There are lines intersecting when they sprayed the nitrocellulose on this. Here you can see the lines. Right up here, the binding has separated, so there's a crack right here where the binding is separated. On the back side, I don't know what this was. I don't know if this was from the packaging. I don't know what it is, but there's this weird white film that you cannot get off. It's almost like maybe even it's the piece itself was not sprayed well, this cover. And so this guitar was a mess, and but they had it up for full price at the shop. brand new, you know, and I said to the guy, I said, look, man, you know, honestly, you know, nobody's going to buy this guitar in this condition. You know, and after doing a little research about Gibson and their quality control problems, I can tell you, hey, Gibson guys, this is why people really were upset at you for a while there. I hope you've improved. I have to tell you, oh yeah, a nick right here in the neck. Mind you, again, that this was hanging on the wall, trying to be sold as brand new. So, you know, I hemmed and hawed. It was around my birthday, and I was like, oh, I want to get myself, you know, a guitar. And I said to myself, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the shop, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to lowball them. So that's exactly what I did. I went to the shop and I said, hey man, nobody's going to buy this guitar from you. You and I both know it. I'll give you half your asking price. And the guy, of course, says, oh, okay, let me call up my manager. And the guy shot me back a 40% off price. And other than the cosmetic problems with this guitar, it's perfectly fine. The neck is great. It has the slim neck, which is good for me because transitioning from a Telecaster most of my life to a Les Paul would be difficult if I got the D neck. These C-neck guitars are where it's at for me in terms of playing. So it's what they call a fast neck. It's got a much thinner neck to it. And I immediately took to it, and I said, okay, I agreed to that. And so I got it for 40% off its asking price. I immediately took it and put in RS Guitar Works 50s wiring, so there's pots and capacitors in it. I ordered the classic witch hat knobs, so these are actually more correct to this model because this is supposed to be a copy of the 1968 Les Paul Gold Top that they came out with when they started coming out with Les Pauls again that year. I changed the tuners to vintage correct Kluson tuners, and just love this guitar. It sounds great in terms of clean tones. This thing gives you just beautiful clean. The guys who told me about P90s, good advice, absolutely correct. I haven't used this for any of my commercial recording, but I have used it on my upcoming album for some of the clean tones that I wanted to get. And again, these were going for $1,500 in the States. They were a little bit more here in Singapore because they were imports, but still I ended up getting this guitar for around $1,000 new. And so $1,200 new. So this was my first official Les Paul. I love it. Because of the condition issues with it, I doubt very seriously that anybody will ever want to buy this, which is okay because it's never going to be for sale. But it just shows you why you got to go out there and you got to do the guitar safari. You got to do a little hunting. There are bargains to be found, and this certainly is one of them. Very pleased with that. Moving on, we have the one I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. This is the Les Paul Classic, the 96 that I picked up in Tokyo. You guys saw the show. I thank you everybody for watching that. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link up here in the description. You can see where the story behind this was, getting it in Japan. A 96 Les Paul Classic. I was ranting and raving at the time about the classic 57s that were in the guitar because I thought that these guitars, some of them were shipped back in 96 with classic 57 pickups in it. So I thought that these were 96 57 classics. They were not. After pulling them out, take a look at the back of them, they were actually 2011, so about 8 years old. Not that matters because the classic 57 is a great pickup, but I wanted something a little bit more meatier. And so again, with this one, RS Guitar Works 50s kit, that wiring kit that you can get for about 80, 90 bucks, which changes the pots in this from 300K to 500K pots. And then I did a little bit of research, and this is where we're going to start talking about vintage stuff a little bit. The vintage rabbit hole is deep. And if you find yourself going down to it, which a lot of guitar players, a lot of musicians eventually find themselves in, my best advice to you is to ask yourself, is this something that I really need? I'm talking about players, people who play, players who use this. This is my profession. This is what I do. I produce music. So I don't consider myself to be a collector. Every one of these guitars gets used. And so, you really have to ask yourself, is this something that I can use? Is this something that, I really need to do and invest that kind of money in? And even in the vintage market, you can get some great stuff for, not a lot of money. Case in point, Seymour Duncan. This is a 1977 Seymour Duncan PAF. So I believe Seymour started producing they were the first aftermarket available pickups that you could buy back at that time. He started the whole boutique pickup market. And I don't, love him or hate him, I love him. I love Seymour Duncan pickups. That is just a fact. And so I searched high and low because I know this pickup, I know how it sounds, and I wanted one for this guitar because I thought it would give the tone that I was looking for. And eventually in Indonesia, I tracked one down. So this is the 77, it's got the square pegs on it if you're familiar with that. And put it in here, coupled with the RS Guitar Works harness. Man, this guitar is a tone monster. Oh my gosh. Anybody out there, if you know me, this is the one that you will always see me with, other than my number one. I love this. So this is my number 2 guitar now. I took the other 57 Classic out and I did something very interesting. I custom ordered a pickup from a shop called Danelectro. You can find them on Alibaba, I think is there. And I requested a custom wound pickup. This pickup is wound to the exact same specifications of a Seymour Duncan 59. When I received it, I took the Alnico 2 magnet that it came with out of it, and I ordered an Alnico 4 magnet that I got from a guy in Greece who sells them. You can find them on eBay, and put the Alnico 4. So now we have a Alnico 4 pickup in the neck. These Seymour Duncan's, the original ones, are Alnico 5 magnets in them, and I have to tell you that this is the tone that this one can't give me. Between these two guitars right here, my Tele and this one, I had every guitar tone that you could possibly imagine covered. I couldn't be more happier with this purchase. As you know, I got this one for $1,500. At this point, this is the most expensive guitar in my collection. Now, I can certainly afford far more expensive guitars than these, but again, I have to justify the cost of these. I just use this on a TV commercial that I'm producing, demo work. The demo pay in itself on that commercial more than paid for this guitar. So this guitar has already paid for itself in terms of its use, and I highly recommend to you, if you're a starting out musician or you've been a musician for a while, that's how you kind of view this. You have to ask yourself, if you're a player, you have to ask yourself, can you justify the price of it? Is it going to give you a good solid return on the investment that you put into it? If I bought that $55,000 Les Paul, what was it? Yeah, it was a Les Paul it was a 56 Les Paul. Beautiful guitar with P90s. $55,000, I would have to do a whole heck of a lot of commercials. I mean, in a year's time, yeah, it would pay for itself, but it would take up, a lot of money. I can't see making that kind of investment. So it's highly unlikely that you'll ever see me with something like that. And I don't feel the need for it. Like I said, these are just, you know, these are gorgeous guitars, but they're not expensive. They're not expensive. Last but not least is my tried and true bass guitar. This is a 1983 made in Japan Fender Jazz bass. And this is original. I haven't changed a thing on it. It's a jazz bass. So if you're familiar with the sound of a jazz bass, you know what this is. Weighs a ton. This thing is a monster. But in terms of getting the tones that I need for the type of work that I do, this bass guitar has done it for decades now for me. And this one, again, is another pawn shop buy. I think I ended up getting this one for about $150. Again, this was back in the day when there was no internet. The shop guys couldn't go on eBay or whatever and look up, oh, what's this going for right now? So I got lucky. The days of getting these kinds of deals on these kind of guitars in Japan or probably anywhere else are long over. You missed that train if you missed it. And so I got really lucky. I actually got a lot of quality instruments for nothing. I mean, for pennies. Like right now, I believe these are going for about $700, $800, $900. So again, not a big investment. So, really what I want to say to you is, if you're starting out as a player or if you're an existing player, I want you to really think to yourself, I mean, I can say that this was the one I had for years and years, and I didn't have any of these other ones. So really, if you're going to get into the vintage market, just really ask yourself, is it something that I need? I don't think so. Do I think that some vintage guitars are worth the money? Actually, I don't. I really don't. I think when you start getting into, the 58, 59, 60 Les Pauls that are going for $250,000 up to $500,000, I really think that you're getting to the, ooh, look what I got kind of phase. You're getting to the collector phase. No real players other than Joe Bonamassa, who's trying to corner the market on those guitars, really actually, at this day and age, are buying those. If you're a big-time superstar guitar player, then I guess you're buying those, or you already had one. Prince, getting back to him, I was doing a little research for this video about the Wildcat, and I discovered actually his first guitar that he had when he started out in 78, 79 was actually a Gibson Les Paul LS. And certainly at that time Prince could afford to buy any guitar that he wanted to. Certainly by the end of his life, he absolutely could afford to have bought as many of those Les Pauls as he wanted to, but it wasn't his thing. He liked to have his custom design, so he had people make guitars for him, which is pretty cool. If I was going to go in the direction, of fancy guitars, I would have one custom made first before I went out and spent all that money on the vintage market, because it's still hit and miss. There are a lot of vintage guitars out there going for a lot of money trading hands, but they are just duds in terms of playability, pickups, a whole lot of stuff. So you don't need the vintage gear. You don't need it. If you want to do it and you feel like a couple of pieces, then I'm going to, actually on my guitar safari, I'm looking to get a Echoplex EP3. So the original Echoplex, and I want it because I want the preamp in it. I want that preamp boost that gives. But even that being from about 72, 73, the one I'm looking at is about $800. And the servicing on it is about $40 if I need a new cartridge. I found a company that'll service it really quick, no problem. So that's a vintage piece that I'm considering buying. I was looking at the Klon Centaur. If anybody's familiar with that, it is a clean boost pedal that came out between 94 and 2000. I wanted a clean boost as well. I was thinking about looking into one in LA. Come to find out that that pedal, which I recall when it was about brand new, was about $300 or $400. Those things are going for $2,000 now, which is crazy for that. And it's because, you know, the vintage talk. It is a great pedal, but is it $2,000 worth of great? I don't think so. So I went to a local pedal shop that I go to, and I talked to the guy, did a little research, and I found out that Bill Finnegan, I believe is the name of the guy who created the Klon Centaur, he's actually re-releasing those again under the name KTR, which is the same exact pedal. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit better because it's smaller footprint, it fits on a pedal board a lot better. But other than that, 9 volt, it takes 9 volt charge, which the other one, the older one, did not. So it's a great pedal for your pedal board. It makes a lot of sense. It's on back order. If I order one now, I won't get it till February because they're being made by hand, and I'm okay with that because they're going for $300 for the same exact pedal that you're going to find on Reverb for $2,000 essentially. So I went to the pedal shop and talked to the guy, and I said, hey, you know, show me your Klon Centaur clones, because I wanted to see what there's several clones out there on the market. This is before I found out about the KTR, and went and talked to him and played through a few. I was like, oh, I've never played clones, so I don't have anything to A and B it against. Did a little research, found out about the KTR, went back to him and talked to him a little bit because I was in there again having guitar service. And I said, hey, you know, I was here, remember we were looking at the Klon clones. And I said, hey, you know, that guy Bill, he's coming out with it again. It's the KTR, it's the exact same thing. You know what he said to me? He said, it's not as good as the original. Now, the first thought I had in my mind was to say to him, well, have you played the original, and how would you know that? And the only reason he's saying that is because that's what he read on the internets. And again, that's another danger of the vintage market, is you got a lot of people out there pontificating upon things that they know not about. And really, you gotta do your research yourself. You gotta talk to people who do know, or at least read articles on people who have made an actual A-B comparison. And a guy that I found online who owns both and wrote an article about both of them says that you cannot tell the difference. And, you know, it gets back into that 95, 96% there kind of thing. You know, where it's almost as good enough. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that out there. And so it's just, you know, this guy who sells pedals, and this is what he's spewing out from a complete, you know, ignorance. He doesn't know. He's never played either. He's just spewing out to customers what he's heard. So do your own research. You know, I always do that with everything. Before I bought the Les Paul Classic here, I did the research. Remember, there was a couple of guitars that I looked at, and I went to Tokyo and I tried all three of them and made you know, educated guess, because I knew what I was playing. Know your gear, know what you're looking for, know what you want to get, and know why you want to get it and how much of a price you're willing to pay. Okay, well that's it for my ramble today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my guitar collection as much as I enjoyed discussing it. This is actually the first time I've ever had them all in the same room because of humidity issues here in Singapore. I have to keep them out of the studio room unless I'm actually using them. So it's actually kind of cool. I'm actually kind of impressed with what I've amassed over the last 20 years. It's quite something. So, you know. You guys take care, have yourselves a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Like the show? Well, show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button. See you later.